Good evening, everyone. This is Carlos Clanton. I'm your school board member representing Ward 3 on the Norfolk City School Board, and I'm glad to have you all joining me this evening. This is another segment of my Live with Carlos Clanton, and I'm really excited because I'm going to have Stephanie Iles, who serves as our registrar in the voter registration for the city of Norfolk, and she'll be joining us a little bit later in the segment. But I definitely wanted to be able to share some more information as we are getting ready to go back to school, and I know we are so excited. Our teachers have been coming back. They've been in their in-service. The administrators had their leadership training the following week. And so there's been a lot of energy and excitement getting prepared for the coming school year. And I want to be able to share some of that information with you. But to get things started off, I want to share with you, yesterday evening, the district put out information regarding the welcome back to school message. And so I want to share that message with you from Dr. Birdsong. And I think that it covers a lot of things that I was going to cover in regards to the reopening plan. And then I'll drop some items inside of the comment for you if you have not seen the reopening plan. And definitely, if you have questions or comments, please place them in the comment section. If you're watching on Facebook, you can place them right in the comment section there. The same thing with YouTube as well as with Periscope. So here we go. I'm going to bring Dr. Birdsong in so that she can share her message with you all.
Greetings, Norfolk Public Schools families and students. I am Dr. Sharon Birdsong, the very proud superintendent of Norfolk Public Schools, and I want to welcome you to the 2020-2021 school year. I hope that you were able to take some time over the summer to catch up on your rest and enjoy relaxing with one another. As you know, this new school year will be unlike any other we have ever experienced. And likewise, we are preparing for this year unlike we've ever done before. Our teachers, principals and assistant principals, support staff, and central office administrators have already spent countless hours getting ready for our virtual start of the school year and making sure that we are well prepared to begin teaching students on day one. And we have been laser focused on ensuring equity and excellence for each student. There's no doubt that this new school year's virtual education experience will be different from the spring when we had to unexpectedly and quickly develop learning materials so our students could continue their education remotely. Norfolk Public Schools leaders listen to you and learn lessons from your experiences. And as a result, have spent many, many hours working on ways to improve the virtual education for all of our students. Here's what will be different as we begin this school year. First, both the expectations and accountability for student learning, engagement, and growth will be significantly higher. We will be teaching new instructional material as we did during the mandated closure. However, pacing will be more comparable to in-school instruction. We want students to be challenged and engaged in their learning every single day. Second, along with high expectations and accountability will come a stronger support system for our students who may encounter challenges with online learning. For example, we have developed online schedules that emulate the structure of the schedules of schools. Students who are not able to participate in the regular day schedule will be able to confer with their teachers outside of regular school hours through email exchanges, telephone calls, and virtual conferences to receive individualized support and learning. Students will also be able to access recorded lessons so they can pace themselves with the curriculum. Administrators and teachers will provide time during after-school hours for additional learning opportunities for students whose families need flexible scheduling. These schedules will assist with accountability for learning and better prepare students to return to face-to-face instruction once that option is available. Third, we will be closely monitoring our students of equity and opportunity to make sure they are fully participating and learning every day. These students of equity and opportunity include, but are not limited to, our youngest learners in pre-kindergarten through third grade, our English learners, and our students with disabilities. We know that these students sometimes struggle with the challenges of virtual learning, and our teachers are fully prepared to deploy solutions and support to ensure their success. Fourth, we have streamlined access to technology to minimize confusion and optimize student success with virtual learning. Norfolk Public Schools has partnered with Virtual Virginia and Canvas to provide a consistent platform for student assignments and learning materials. This means that students, parents, and guardians will only have to access one platform for learning tools. While live instruction will take place over Zoom, students will access materials, assignments, and teachers' feedback via the Canvas platform. Fifth, we are ensuring that every student who is in need of a mobile device and a wireless hotspot to access the internet has this technology. Parents and guardians, I urge you to contact your child's principal if your child is still in need of a mobile device or a wireless hotspot. And speaking of parents and guardians, I need to convey something of great importance to you. You are one of the primary keys to your children's success. Your involvement and support of your children in their learning is perhaps the most important factor in their success. No doubt, this new school year will bring many challenges to overcome, but I want to assure you that we are here to help you in any way that we can. To start, we have partnered with several organizations to provide full-day childcare at school sites throughout the city. While this program is targeted to those parents and guardians who are essential workers who must report to their jobs, it is also open to all parents and guardians who are juggling the responsibilities of working and raising children. Children who participate will be required to bring their mobile devices so they can maintain their school schedule while at the program. If you're interested in learning more about the child care program, we invite you to visit the school division's website for more details. In addition, we are planning many opportunities to engage with families. From offering training sessions to school-hosted events, we understand that communication is more vital now than ever before. There will be many ways for you to stay connected with your child's school and classroom teachers. As we begin the school year, I want you to know how extremely proud I am of all our students who have demonstrated such resilience and grit as they face an uncertain school year. Students, I so admire your strength and flexibility to handle whatever challenge comes your way. Parents and guardians, let me personally assure you that Norfolk Public Schools stands in partnership with you to ensure that every student will rise up to meet the hurdles of this new school year. We are committed to working together to find solutions and to do whatever it takes to ensure equity and excellence for each student. I thank you for being part of our Norfolk Public Schools family, and I look forward to sharing our progress on this journey. Have a great start to the school year.
So as you can see, we've shared information from our superintendent that came out yesterday evening, and I thought it was very befitting for us to go ahead and share that information with you all today. The message directly from our superintendent. Our administration and our superintendent have been working extremely hard, all the way down to the school level, our principals, our administrative staff, our support staff, all to try to mitigate what we can possibly deal with in this pandemic to ensure that we have a successful school year and that we bring that we can overcome some of the hurdles for which our students are going to that they undoubtedly are facing right now. We are moving into a virtual environment, and as she had stated, parents, you're our number one support that we need to ensure that your students are where they need to be on the days that they need to be there. And so I do want to go ahead and move right into another item, and that's to dispel a rumor. I posted some information, and the district also placed this out there. And the rumor was in regards to this. It is not true that students who are not logged in on the first day of school will be dropped and have to be re-enrolled in school. That is not true. If a student is having an issue, if you don't have the technology for some reason on the first day of school, we, again, stress to you, contact your school, the school that your child is assigned to make the principal aware. If parents, you're unable to get to the school, you have one more day this coming Friday. Many schools are doing their pickups. And for some reason you can't get there, contact your school and they will work to deliver the devices to your home location. And this is important. And so we want to make sure that that you're there. And I see our PTA president, Sharice Newsom, has joined, and she's got a kudos out there I want to share with you all for the work that you all are doing there. Also, I saw that my fellow colleague on the school board, Ms. Lauren Campson, also has joined us this evening. But as I stated before, this is just an update as we're getting ready to go back to school, as well as I wanted to share information on two other really important topics for in general. And that is voting and how do we do that. And we're going to have Stephanie Iles, our registrar, voter registrar, is going to be joining us pretty soon here. But I also want to talk about the census and particularly making sure that children are counted. I'm vice president of organizational development for Stop Inc. And we're a community action organization. And one of the things that we're focusing on, as many in this particular period, is ensuring the census. And if you're not sure, the census is going to end on September 30th. There are some efforts right now to extend that period of time. But right now, we're looking at a September 30th deadline. And as I had stated before, the census allows us to be able to, it allows the federal government to determine the allocation of your voting strength. And that voting strength is depending upon who's representing us in the House of Representatives. It also determines the dollars that we get to our local localities from the federal government, particularly in this instance for education. We receive our funding from three different pots. If you want to kind of look at it, we receive federal funding, we receive state funding, and we receive local funding from the city of Norfolk. And so you being counted in the census and ensuring that your child is counted in the census will ensure that we get our fair share for the next 10 years. It determines it for the next 10 years. We've got some other folks who joined here, and I'm going to recognize them a little bit here. I see that Mr. Avery has also joined, and we also have Greg Hux who's joined us this evening as well. But let's go ahead and talk about 8 simple rules to think about when you're dealing with your children and whether or not they should be counted in the census. First, count all infants, newborns, and young children where they live or sleep most of the time. And so pretty much the census counts all children who were born on or before April 1st of 2020 this year. All right, so you want to think about where you were staying at that time, and this includes babies. If the baby was in the hospital, you still count that baby as to where they're going at home. This is important because when you think about it, a child who's 1 to 5 years old right now, that oftentimes they get forgotten in the census. 10 years from now, if that child is 5 years old now, they'll be 15 years old. That means 10 years worth of funding to help them in their public education, to help them make sure they have the necessary resources and supplies. And so this is important to make sure that they're counted. The second thing is, if a young child does not have a place where they usually live or sleep, count them where they are staying at on April 1st. We have students in our school district who are considered homeless. They don't have a permanent place to live. We have students who are living in hotels or extended stays or living with family members. So wherever you are on April the 1st, where you were on April 1st, 2020, where you were staying at and you have children with you, you count them at that address so that that address can make sure that they get credit for it. The third thing that you want to keep in mind is that if a child's living arrangement is temporary, count them where they were living on April 1st. And so this includes children who on April 1st were staying temporarily with a grandparent or another relative. That also includes foster parents, children that you may have. If a child stays more often at one address than another, you want to go ahead and count that child where they stay most often. The fourth thing you want to keep in mind is that you want to count children where they usually live and sleep, even if they are not related to the person completing the census. So if you have a child who stays with an aunt, an uncle, or a grandparent, and that's where they typically stay, but they're not, or they have a godparent that they stay with, or, a lot of times I know I had a lot of godparents and god aunts who are out there. And if you stayed with that individual most of the time, you should be counted credit where they stay. This is important because, again, as we said, these help us with their dollars that come back to support us for the next 10 years, and it determines a lot of things. Number 5 that we want to keep in mind, count young children even if they are living in a place where they're not allowed. Now, a lot of people get scared and frustrated about the census, and there's none of this information is going to be utilized to come after you or utilized to find you breaking a law or whatever. This is by mandate that we have to, every 10 years, conduct a census and get this information. So let me give you an example. This includes children who are staying in a seniors only residence. So let's say that you're living in a senior only high rise or residence, and you're taking care of your grandchildren, or families with more people, including children, than a lease allows. The Census Bureau will never share this information, so you cannot be used against you in your household. So in other words, you want to make sure that those individuals are counted in the census. So again, if gave you some situations, if you're staying in a place where your lease says that you can only have a number of people, but you've got a family member that has children and they're staying with you, you want to make sure that they're counted as of April 1st, 2020. The 6th item that you want to keep in mind is that you want to count children and their families who only recently moved into an address. So if someone starts a new lease or moves into a new home on or before April 1st, they should be counted for where they're living at now. Okay. And you want to make sure. So if you're living in a 213 zip code and you've moved and now you're in the 23508 zip code, you want to make sure that if that was on or before the April 1st, you want to make sure that they're counted and they're placed there. The 7th thing that we want to keep in mind is that you want to count the full set of people and families living in an address, not only those who may own or rent the property. Okay. So if you've got a couple other families that are staying with you all, you want to make sure that everybody who's in that household is being counted. This is important because, again, those numbers will help us to have a true, accurate, and reflection for the next 10 years as we start talking about our funding. And the last thing is count everyone, including your children, regardless of their citizenship status. This is a very, very important item there. And so the 2020 census needs to count everyone. I know you've probably heard things in regards to that may have been some executive orders to not count individuals who are not legalized residents here. That is not the case. Everyone should be counted. And so the Census Bureau is required by law to keep the census responses confidential. So that information will not be shared. But the information provided to the Census Bureau will never be shared with immigrant enforcement or law enforcement agencies. I'll be sharing this additional information in a link with us here today so that you can go back and check that out. So if you know of individuals who are in your community, family members who may be in that situation, or you've been in a situation where you've already submitted your census, you can go and you were counted out. You can go back and complete another census with that current address to make sure that you're included. So again, this is information I want to make sure that you have. I see that my guest has arrived. And so I'm so excited. I'm going to bring her in here with us right now. And that is none other than Miss Stephanie Iles, our registrar down in voter registration. How's Stephanie? How are you doing?
Hi, good, Carlos. How are you?
I'm doing well, doing well. I appreciate you. I know that you are extremely busy. We've got something happening on November 3rd. And I know that you are trying to get things together for that. So we're going to jump right in here. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about you and what you do. What is your job as a registrar?
So my exact title is the Director of Elections and General Registrar for the City of Norfolk. And that covers a myriad of things to include voter registration for the citizens in Norfolk, running election day preparations, getting everything ready behind the scenes, what you don't see, to make it voting easy for you on election day. And we also handle campaign finance for candidates. So that's all part of the process that we deal with here in our office.
Great. So we know that we've heard a lot on the news. People have gotten things in the mail, as we're getting prepared for this election. What changes should voters be looking out for in this coming November election just to be prepared?
Well, this is going to be our 4th election during the pandemic. We had a March presidential primary, and that was right when things started kicking off during the pandemic. And we had a May local election as well as a June primary. So we are a little prepared, I would say, going into November. We have many a PPE for our officers of election that are working the polls. I would encourage any voters that wish to come out in person, whether it's voting in person absentee or coming to the polls on election day, to wear a mask or face covering. and to practice social distancing and exercise patience, because with presidential elections, everybody comes out and wants to vote. We have had a large increase in the amount of absentee ballot requests than we have had in the past. And that is due to people wanting to socially isolate and protect themselves and make sure that their vote does get counted. So we are working right now. I'm actually still at the office. We're processing absentee applications from voters that have submitted those. And we will begin absentee voting on September 18th. So those of you who have already requested an absentee ballot, please do not send us another application. We are processing literally thousands of them, and we will get your ballots out in the mail on September 18th. We will also begin absentee voting in person on September 18th. So it's just a couple weeks away, but please make sure that you're ready and prepared on Election Day. Also, you need to have voter identification. Now that the laws did change, there were several laws in this last session of the General Assembly that went into effect on July 1st. It does not require you have a photo ID when you go to the polls. However, we encourage you to bring your Virginia driver's license or Virginia DMV ID, should you have one, because our poll pads, which are essentially iPads, can scan the barcode with the camera feature, go directly to your voter record, and get you checked in. And we would like to get you in and out as quickly as possible. And we're still going to maintain that social distance in the polling place and clean between voters. You're going to be voting for not only the electors for president and vice president, but we have the members of Congress, which is your U.S. Senate and House of Representatives. There are 2 constitutional amendments on the ballot. And in Norfolk, we also have the casino referendum. So because races and questions, it will be a double-sided ballot. So make sure you look at both sides of your ballot, because the constitutional amendments and the casino referendum will be on the back of the ballot, and the on the front of the ballot. Look at both. If you're voting absentee by mail, you do not have to have a witness. Normally in the past, when you voted an absentee ballot, you had to have somebody witness the fact that that was you voting the ballot. And that could be anybody 18 years of age or older, a friend, family member, next door neighbor, colleague. Because of the COVID pandemic and people self-isolating, a court order ruled that for this election, the witness going to be enforced. So you need to have a witness. So that makes it a little easier for people who may be at home alone and don't have somebody to help them.
Definitely. So, Stephanie, we got a question from Ms. Campson. Where do we go to vote early for absentee in person?
Okay, so great question. So we will begin absentee voting on September 18th at City Hall in the first floor at 810 Union Street. The building is right now closed to the public. We are still doing curbside services for people who wish to register to vote or turn in an absentee ballot request. But on September 18th, we will open up a space on the first floor for people to come vote absentee in person. Also, on this past Tuesday, City Council approved an ordinance to add 4 voter satellite offices for absentee voting. And those will start next month, October. We will be publishing the dates and times of those. We're finalizing information through the Department of Elections for security and networking capability. And so as soon as we have that approved, which will be in the next couple of days, we will be publishing all the information in the Virginia pilot on our webpage at www.norfolk.gov/elections. And we will be communicating information through the city's communications department on all social media platforms. So stay tuned. We will have at least 4 different locations. So you'll have a choice to go vote absentee in person should you choose to do so. If you go absentee in person, there's no application. It's just like going to the polling place on Election Day. You bring your voter identification. We check you in. We give you a ballot. You vote your ballot. You get your I voted sticker, and you get to leave. So we will be posting more information about that soon.
Great. So how are you looking in regards to election workers? Do you need officials to help work the polls?
We always are looking for people to work the polls. So we've had a great response. We've been doing some media outreach in different segments. And because of that, we've been receiving a lot of help. September 1st was National Poll Worker Recruitment Day. and we very very good results from the State Department of Elections. You can go online to the Department of Elections website and fill out a form to apply to be an officer of election. And it is a very, very rewarding experience. You are compensated. It's not a lot. It does vary depending on which position you do, but you get to meet with family, neighbors, work with colleagues, and see how it is behind the scenes and what makes it happen. And the people that we've had who've been our officers of election for years, they don't do it for the money. They do it because of the civic duty. They really, really enjoy it. Unfortunately, some of them are in that higher risk group. So we've been trying to recruit some younger people to help out because the seasoned ones, a lot of them have to stay home to protect themselves. And we certainly understand that. But our recruitment's been great, and we welcome anybody who's interested. You can also send an email to the vote, VOTE, at norfolk.gov if you're interested in volunteering in the city of Norfolk. You don't have to live in Norfolk. We have people coming as far away as Isle of Wight who will come work for us on Election Day. So we're very interested in anybody who would like to volunteer.
Great. So we've heard on the news, I know at least in the last 48 hours, in regards to if you place an absentee ballot, someone has also told individuals to go out and show up to the polls and vote again. Can you kind of elaborate how that might be a little illegal?
Yes. Okay. So when you request an absentee ballot, whether it's by mail or in person, that is considered a vote. You are issued voting credit at the time you request that ballot. So let's just say you, Carlos, had requested an absentee ballot to be mailed to you, and we mailed it out to you on September 18th, and you dutifully filled it out and sent it back to us. Then you decided on Election Day, well, let me make sure I'm going to go out and vote in person. And you showed up at the polls and insisted upon voting in person. You have technically already voted because you returned that absentee ballot to us. So your vote has been cast. Anybody who tries to vote more than once, that's actually considered a felony because it's called double voting, and that is illegal. People will be prosecuted for that, and we hope that nobody attempts to do that. But people sometimes will test the system. It is a very good system we have here in Virginia. When we issue an absentee ballot, it shows up in the poll book that your absentee ballot has been issued. When we get your absentee ballot back, we will check it into our system as whether it was marked or unmarked, depending on how it was returned. And that will update your status for Election Day. So we are constantly updating information as it comes in.
So
and you can actually us too, because there is a barcode that will be on the absentee ballot that you can track it coming back through the mail to us and see if it was checked in.
So let's say that I get my absentee ballot and it is now, I haven't turned it in and it's the day before the election and I've got my ballot and I don't want to put it in the mail. What can I do with that absentee ballot?
You can turn it into our office so we can get it counted for you. All absentee ballots, even though they may be received before the election, are not actually tabulated until Election Day. We will do what we call processing of ballots that have been received, which is essentially checking them into our state database, showing that they were received, and they will be fed into a high-speed scanner so that they can be tabulated. But no tabulations will be done until Election Day. Now, the laws did also change effective this past July 1st, that normally you had to turn in your absentee ballot by 7 o'clock on election night. That's changed. Now, as long as it's postmarked by Election Day, which will be November 3rd, and we receive it by Friday at noon, November 6th, those ballots will all be counted. So the results for absentee will be somewhat delayed because we're going to have to account for those ballots that arrived after Election Day but still qualified. So we probably won't have the final results, I would say, at least until Saturday. All election results on election night are unofficial. And I really want to reiterate that. The news people like to guess who the winner is sometimes before and sometimes in some cases voters are still in line in some states. That is a terrible thing because as a voter, if I was standing in line and I heard or received a message that so and so won the election. That's very discouraging because I'm still waiting to cast my ballot. So
Yeah.
those results are all unofficial. And we really encourage everybody to please exercise your right to vote, not only in this election, but every election.
Definitely. So we've got some additional comments that came in, and I want to recognize Shirley Ryder. She's the Commissioner for Persons with Disabilities in Norfolk. And so she's asked the question, what accommodations were made for persons who are blind or persons who have mental challenges this election cycle?
Okay, so each polling place on election day has an ADA accessible machine that is required under federal law. And that machine, what's called an audio ballot. So the person who's blind could listen to the ballot over headphones, and it will print out a ballot with their selections that they've chosen. They use a little handset to move through the ballot. It will review their choices and selections and then print a ballot, which is then fed into the optical counter. There was a recent lawsuit filed by the Americans with Disabilities because there was a concern with blind voters specifically not being able to vote independently at home. And we completely understand this. So there are special accommodations that the Virginia Department of Elections has just announced that will be forthcoming, that we will be able to send those voters who request it an email ballot that they can complete and return to our office so they can still have that independence to vote. Because oftentimes when we're sending a ballot right now, the way we do in a regular paper ballot form, they can't see it. It's not in Braille, and they may not be able to read Braille if it was Braille. So a lot of times they have to vote with the assistance of another person, and they're not sure, is that person making those selections that I want? So this new feature that they agreed to, we will be emailing those ballots to those voters.
So thank you. And we have Ms. Charlene Christopher, former retired, we'll say retired educator here in Norfolk. And she says, hello, and thank you for the job we're doing. If you want to turn in a ballot, which you requested, will you be able to turn in that ballot at a satellite location? I guess even, I know you mentioned some satellite locations, but I guess will those satellite locations be open on election day as well?
So what will happen is right now, as I said, we'll be opening our central absentee precinct at City Hall. So if you get your ballot and you are not comfortable returning it in the mail, we understand people have concerns about that. You can return it here to City Hall during our office hours, and one of our officers of election will be staffed downstairs with a secure box for you to return in your ballot. Please make sure when you return your ballot that you have filled out envelope B as in boy correctly with your name, your address where you're registered, and your voter signature, because we don't want to have to call you if something's wrong. We want your vote to count and count correctly. The General Assembly is currently in special session, and they're changing some legislation right now as regard to elections. One of the proposed pieces is to allow the voter satellite offices to become drop-off locations as well. And we do expect that to go through. If that goes through, and as I said, we'll be announcing those dates and times of locations, then voters will be able to drop off at those locations as well. The other thing that they included in that is possibly having drop-off locations at the polling places on election day. So if a voter their ballot on election day, that's probably going to be tabulated after election day, because with the other absentee ballots that came in the mail that I mentioned that were postmarked by election day, those would be tabulated later, most likely, because we can't stay open to count all the ballots coming in from 48 different locations on election night. So there will be options, and all of that will be communicated on social media platforms as we get direction from the Virginia Department of Elections. But we're still waiting on the legislation to pass the General Assembly. The governor has to sign it, and then the Department of Elections will give us guidance, and we will communicate that.
Great. So for some of my my seniors here in Norfolk Public Schools, they're turning 18, and they're turning 18, and they want to vote. What's the deadline for them to register? I guess to be able to turn 18, and what would they need in order to participate if they don't have a driver's license yet?
Okay, that's a wonderful question. So young men and women who will be 18 years of age, at least on or before Election Day, November 3rd, are
Okay.
eligible to register to vote now. They've been eligible this entire year. They could register to vote and vote in any intervening primary. So let's say your birthday is November 1st
Okay.
and you're turning 18. You can register to vote now. The easiest way to do that is to go to the Department of Elections website if you have a Virginia driver's license or Virginia DMV ID. If you don't have one, you can still complete the application on the website, but you'll be required to print it out, sign it, and send it in.
Okay.
If they don't have an ID, other forms of identification that can be used would be a high school ID,
Okay.
military ID, veterans ID, employer ID, even the card that we send out, which is actually a voter notice, that is an acceptable form of voter identification. So there's various things that they could use. Some of them may have passports because they've done, overseas school and traveling. That's all acceptable as well. But we encourage them to get registered to vote. And because schools are working virtually and are not in session on election day, if they'd like to volunteer as officers of election, we'd love to have some of the high schoolers. That would be wonderful.
Great. Shirley Ryder had an additional follow-up question, and she was asking, so what about voters who are mentally challenged? What type of accommodations will be made for them?
Voters who are mentally challenged. So anybody who needs assistance with voting, whether it's physical, where somebody needs to help them with physically voting, they can come and to the polls on election day and request assistance from somebody who brought them to the polls. They could also ask one of our officers of election to assist them. We help voters all the time on election days with voting should they request it. And there is what's called a request for assistance form that's filled out. It indicates who the assistant is and their address, and that they are voting on behalf of the voter the way the voter wants them to vote. Okay. And so we will have, in some cases, some of our polling places will have buses come with some seniors from some of our homes. And some people might be able to get off the bus, some may not. We will go out on the bus and help them if they need assistance, or we would just let them vote outside on the bus curbside, because we do offer those curbside services. I would also mention with the curbside services, normally that is for persons who are 65 and older, disability. But if somebody, with what's going on right now, and we completely understand it with the pandemic, if you are not comfortable coming in the polling place, you can vote curbside. We will have signage posted where you can contact our office and alert us, or you can notify one of the poll workers outside, and we will let that polling place know that you're outside to vote. Please still bring your voter identification, because they do have to qualify you at the vehicle, and it does take some time. But we want to make sure everybody gets to exercise their right to vote.
Great. And I think you answered Miss Gloria Scott Allen's question. She was like, well, you all still come to the curb if I don't want to go inside the building and I show up to the polling location. So yes.
We will go outside to our office like to get some fresh air every now and then too, because they're stuck in the polling place all day. We have some new signs that we were having made that will be posted outside for voters to contact our office if they need assistance.
Definitely. Great. And Gloria says, thank you. So I want to make sure we place that up there for answering that. So Stephanie, is there any final reminders, words of encouragement you want to provide people as we're getting ready for this coming election?
Yes, reminders. Okay. The deadline to register to vote is October 13th. So please make sure you're registered. If you've recently moved, you need to update your voter registration. It does not matter if you've updated your driver's license yet. We're getting a lot of those where people are requesting an absentee at a different address, but they're registered somewhere else and we're having to call them. We understand it's hard to get into DMV now. You have to have an appointment to do so, but that does not impact your voter registration. Go ahead and update your voter registration showing that you've made that move, and we will go ahead and get you a ballot if you request one. Also, the deadline to request an absentee ballot by mail is Friday, October 23rd, and that is at 5 o'clock. So you have to get that into us. We will begin absentee voting September 18th. City Hall will be open for the 45 days prior to the election, Monday through Friday from 8:30 to 5. And we will be open the 2 Saturdays before the election, October 24th and 31st on Halloween from 9 to 5. October 31st is the last day to vote absentee in person. And we'll be sharing more information about the voter satellite offices coming up soon.
Great. Stephanie, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. Definitely, but we appreciate what you do for the citizens of Norfolk, and definitely sharing this information. And so when I do the follow-up recap of this, I'll make sure that I place those dates up there for everyone. So again, thank you, Stephanie, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Not a problem. So I want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. I hope that you found that this was informative and sharing the information in regards to the upcoming election, in regards to reopening of schools. School starts Tuesday, September the 8th, right? The day after Labor Day. Again, if you do not have a device for your child as of yet, and you haven't gotten the iPad or the Chromebook, make sure you contact the school. The reopening plan is available online. You can also find that information at npsk12.com, or you can also go to my website, boardmemberclanton.com. Also on my website, I've created resources for you as parents and as students to help you through this process with information that we receive from the Virginia School Board Association and National School Board Association to help equip you as we prepare for this coming school year. We are truly in this together. And another thing that I have there are my priorities for the coming year. As your school board member, I'm really, I take it to heart each and every day, the charge that I have to work with each and every one of you all and to represent your voices and to also bring forth action in the things that you all have brought forth. And I'll give you a perfect example. Many of our parents, and Sharice Newsom, our PTA president, was here, brought to me and said, we need to give some defined time to individuals, particularly to parents, to let them know, hey, is this going to be for the entire school semester or entire year when we say we're going to do virtual? And we listened, and you all told us you want at least 9 weeks. So we took the first 9 weeks, and Norfolk was the first school division to come out in this area and to take that bold initiative. We are waiting and we're working each and every day. And that plan talks about what we'll look at and when we mitigate when it's safe to bring students back into classrooms. But we're looking at our most vulnerable students. We're looking at our students who are pre-K to third grade, our students who are English language learners, our students with disabilities. They are important to us, and we as an entire division, as school board members, our administrators, and our teachers and staff are committed to ensure that all of our students have the necessary things that they, equipment, the resources, and that we close that gap to ensure achievement for everyone in Norfolk Public Schools. Again, I thank you all for joining us this evening. And if you have questions, comments, please share them with me. You can always bring information, and I'll place this up here. You can find me online. You can also put that information. You can also contact me, and I'll make sure I give you this here. You can contact me on my school board cell phone at 756-6018. Again, that's 756-6018. Or you can email me at cclanton1@npsk12.com. I want to hear your concerns, your challenges. I'm here to make sure that I can bring forth. If I don't hear them, I don't know. But the more that I can hear and the more that you all communicate to me and to all of our members on the school board, the more things that we can bring forth and bring positive change. Again, have a great Labor Day weekend, and I look forward to seeing you guys on September 8th for our first day of school. Have a great one.